Good afternoon. Thank you for being with us today. My name is Rebecca Littlejohn, and I am part of the organizing team for Disciples Palestine Solidarity Movement, along with Daniel Mitchell, Rick Stagenborg, Jeff Wright, and also Marcy Mazza-Fredley, who can't be with us today because of a tender family situation she is having to tend to. Disciples Palestine Solidarity Movement is a grassroots group that grew out of the formerly known as Disciples Palestine Israel Network, re-energized by the efforts that created the emergency resolution passed at last summer's General Assembly in Memphis. Raise your hand if you were there. All right. We are a movement of disciples committed to the practice of solidarity with our Palestinian siblings through education, advocacy, action, and mutual encouragement. We are very much still getting started with this reboot, and we welcome and appreciate your participation. We hope that you will follow us on Facebook and Instagram if you aren't already. I have a feeling a lot of you found this because you already are. But if you haven't found that yet, we will get the links for that in the chat. If you think you might be interested in joining our organizing team, that is an option. So you can email us at disciplespin@gmail.com or be in touch with one of us, whatever works for you. Get in touch if you might be interested in doing that. I wish I could tell you what that would entail, but since we're making this up as we go, I cannot. So come help us figure that out. We are delighted to partner with Global Ministries for this event today and to welcome our Global Relations Minister for the Middle East and Europe, Peter Makari. Yay! Peter has held this position with Global Ministries since July of 2000. Prior to that, he worked with the Middle East Council of Churches based in Cyprus, and prior to that, the Coptic Evangelical Organization for Social Services based in Egypt. An Egyptian American, Peter holds an MA from the American University in Cairo and a PhD from New York University. He is the author and editor of a number of books and a member of West Park United Church of Christ in Cleveland, Ohio. We know that many of you know Peter well or have at least met him or have the privilege of having him guide tours for you. We are so glad to have him with us today to share his perspective on what is happening, has happened, could happen in Palestine so that we can all deepen our solidarity. We will begin with prayer, and then we will have Peter share some opening words with us. After that, we will move into a time of questions and response with time for your questions. We will end with a little bit of information about further steps you can take to deepen your solidarity with our Palestinian siblings. Thanks again for being with us today. And now we're going to have Daniel share our opening prayer, which was written by Marcy.
Thank you, Rebecca. Friends, if you could please join me, however you feel most comfortable praying. Creator of justice and mercy, we assemble today as those who bear witness to tragedy, loss, pain, and suffering across global borders, boundaries, and political separations. We are seeking understanding. We are seeking networking relations for good, and we are seeking places where we may find clarity in an ever-evolving and challenging world. Creator, we ask that you walk with us in our journey as peacemakers and justice seekers, for we know this task cannot be done alone. Thank you for those who have gathered virtually here today, those who dedicate their lives to you and your people, and those who refuse to leave the table until questions are answered and conversations are had. Our meeting today will only show a fraction of the devastation taking place in Palestine, but let all we hear and learn today be a reminder that we are called to action in this place together as children of God. Amen, amen, amen.
Amen. All right. Peter, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. And it's so good to be with all of you this afternoon. I'm grateful for this opportunity and especially happy for the opportunity to have worked closely with colleagues, Rebecca and Daniel and Jeff, Marcy and Rick, in the partnership that that exists between Global Ministries and the Disciples Palestine Solidarity Movement. Grateful for that. We know that that any collaboration and all collaboration is good, and the opportunity for us to express ourselves as church together is especially powerful. So I'm grateful for that. I want to thank you, Rebecca, for organizing this and for the kind introduction. I want to offer just a few opening remarks to set the context before we open for a time of conversation and questions. And so I'd like to share a little bit about the current reality on the ground, and then move into some updates from our partners, Disciples and UCC partners through Global Ministries, and then share a bit about what the Disciples specifically have been doing to respond and to engage in all that has happened in the last 2+ years during the course of this genocide. I want to start by saying that I recently had an opportunity to travel to Palestine. I was there just about a month ago and participated in a number of events surrounding the consecration of the new bishop for the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Jordan and the Holy Land. So had the chance to travel with Lamarco Cable, president of Disciples Overseas Ministries, and Sherry Presteman, the associate general minister for the United Church of Christ. Together, they are co-executives of Global Ministries of the Disciples and the UCC. So we were all there together as an expression of our church's solidarity. We were there at a time when we have been following closely developments related to the implementation of the so-called ceasefire. And the ceasefire, which has been agreed to in October of last year, is something that many people are saying is not a ceasefire. In fact, one side ceases and the other side continues to fire. The reality also in terms of implementation of what is expected as a result of those agreements is that so much has not happened that has contributed to the continuation of the suffering of the people in Gaza. We witnessed some of that just in the West Bank by virtue of the reality of the winter conditions. As we were there, we experienced the heavy rainfall and the strong winds of winter storms. And so in the place we were staying, the Beit Jala guest house of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Jordan of the Holy Land, it sits on a hill. And right outside is a sloped road in Beit Jala. And you could see the waves, the torrential waves of water, of rain just flowing down the street. And yes, it's important that Palestinians and the whole region experience rainfall during the winter season. And we could see the green hilltops and vegetation that is a result of that rain. And it's so important. And of course, it was good to see the green. But as Palestinians reminded us, and as we anticipated they would say, that rain and the wind was both a blessing and a curse, because as the people in Gaza were and continue to live in tattered tents and makeshift communities displaced in Gaza, those rains and those winds were devastating for them. And that leads to medical conditions and spread of disease, in addition to just the fact that there is no real shelter for all of those people who are displaced. So since the ceasefire was agreed to in October of 2025, there still have been 570 at least Palestinians who have been killed. So the 71,000 who are known to be killed, that number continues to rise. At least 1,500 Palestinians are registered as injured, and that adds to the over 100,000 Palestinians who are listed as known to have injuries. In recent days, we have seen and witnessed tens of people killed on a daily basis by Israeli strikes and the Israeli presence in Gaza. So, as I mentioned, since October of 23, more than 71,800 Palestinians have been confirmed dead. And that does not include all of those who are indirectly affected by disease and famine, and those who are unaccounted for under rubble. And so we know that the number of actual dead is that much higher. 171,000 people are reported to have injured, and of course that also is an underestimate. More than 500 aid workers have been killed, more than 1,700 health workers, more than 250 journalists all have been killed during this 2+ years of ongoing genocide and Israeli aggression against the people, the Palestinian people of Gaza. More than 80% of the people in Gaza are suffering from extreme food insecurity. So for 2 years, there has been no school for children, lost years of education. That, of course, is a danger for them in the immediate term, but also for the long term. And the danger of school is that the schools have been hit by Israeli fire. And they are also being used as shelter for people who are displaced. So the reality on the ground continues to be that difficult. More than 1.9 million Palestinians in Gaza are displaced. And that is almost all of the population. The population of Gaza was 2.3 million Palestinians before October of 2023. And with factoring in those who have been killed, that number is now estimated at about 2.1 million. There are 18 non-functional hospitals in Gaza currently out of about 35 total hospitals. So more than half of the hospitals in Gaza are completely non-functioning. And the Israeli blockade of Gaza continues. The Rafah crossing between Gaza and Egypt is continued to be controlled by Israel and the Egyptian authorities. So even since the October ceasefire, when that crossing was supposed to be open, only you can count tens of Palestinians who have been allowed to leave Gaza for urgent health care in Egypt. And that's just a tiny fraction of the huge number of Palestinians who are in desperate need of medical care. Israel occupies more than 55% of Gaza, literally on the ground with troops, and that is defined by what is called a yellow line that demarcates that area that Palestinians are not supposed to go to, and that Israel continues to control. That is a line that is not very well defined. It is one that has moved since October, so that more than 55% is now occupied, and is one that Palestinians really even don't know how to navigate, because even if they are on the side that they're supposed to be on, they still have been targeted by Israeli occupying forces. So all of that makes life continually difficult in the Gaza Strip. So we are closely watching what is happening there, but we also know that the Palestinian condition in the West Bank is difficult as well, and has suffered intensified occupation since October of 2023. An occupation that goes back to 1967. We've seen increased settler violence. And since January 20th, there have been 52 settler attacks, resulting in casualties and property damage. The settlement expansion continues, so that in the West Bank and East Jerusalem, the number of settlers now is over 800,000. Home demolitions continue in the West Bank, more than 60 home demolitions since January 20th of this year, and 1,600 home demolitions in 2025. So the military occupation has intensified, especially in the northern West Bank. And so we see a reality there where there are more than 1,000 checkpoints and barriers set up, preventing Palestinians from moving within the West Bank. And I'm not talking about between the West Bank and Jerusalem. I'm talking about within the West Bank. So the difficulty of movement is something that Palestinians have been experiencing as well. Travel between Bethlehem and Ramallah, which would normally take a half an hour, can take up to 3, 4, 5 hours because of that difficulty with checkpoints. So access within the West Bank is limited and increased delays. And we saw that when we were there for the consecration service. The bishop-elect of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Jordan and the Holy Land himself is a West Bank resident and was held up getting to the service of consecration. His mother was held up for 4 hours before being finally allowed to come into Jerusalem to attend the consecration of her son. So that's just an illustration of the frustration and difficulty that Palestinians are having as a result of the intensification in the West Bank. But we know that history didn't begin on October 7th, 2023, and our Palestinian partners continue to remind us of that. This has been a most catastrophic period for Palestinians since 1948, but the blockade of Gaza has been in place since 2007, and it has been an intense blockade where limited food, limited nutrition, limited medical supplies, and very little by way of reconstruction materials have been allowed in. So that's almost a 20-year-long strict blockade, in addition to the increased intensification of the blockade since 2023. Israel has conducted military campaigns in Gaza in 2006, 2008 and 9, 2012, 2014, 2021, in addition to its ongoing control of the Gaza Strip. So a 20-year-old is also a 6-war-old person. And that puts some perspective on the reality that the people in Gaza are living. The population of Gaza, the 2.3 million people who lived there until October of 23, that population number, 2/3 to 3/4 of that population were already refugees or descendants of refugees from 1948. And then, as I mentioned, almost 2 million have been displaced multiple times in these last 2+ years. So this is a population that has been affected by forced displacement. Since 1967, Gaza has been occupied, as well as East Jerusalem and the West Bank, by Israel. And so the military occupation is the reality that we see. That's a short and not comprehensive update of the reality in Gaza and the West Bank. But I want to move on to talk a little bit about our partners and what they have been doing and what they report to us in terms of how they have been engaged since October of 2023. We have 3 main partners in Gaza, and those are El Ahli Hospital. The El Ahli Arab Hospital is a ministry of the Episcopal Diocese of Jerusalem. And in addition, we are partners with the Department of Service for Palestinian Refugees of the Middle East Council of Churches, and Dar el-Kalima University. Dar el-Kalima University is founded by the Reverend Dr. Mitri Rahib, is based in in Bethlehem, but has a Gaza branch. So I want to share a bit about what each of those partners has sent to us recently in terms of updates and the reality that they face and how they have been responding to the crisis in these last 2+ years. El Ahly Hospital, as I mentioned, is a ministry of the Episcopal Diocese of Jerusalem, a longtime partner of the disciples through Global Ministries, and one we are especially proud of. It is one of the few hospitals in Gaza that continues to function with ongoing programs, not only in its facility, but also through mobile clinics. It reports that infectious diseases continue to surge, with more than 1.3 million reported cases of diarrhea, respiratory infections, scabies, hepatitis A. All of these things are examples of the kinds of diseases that the Palestinian people in Gaza are experiencing. El Ahly has been struck at least 8 times over the course of these 2+ years, but has continued to function heroically. Its wards are filled beyond capacity with patients suffering from preventable illnesses, malnutrition, and untreated chronic diseases. The ceasefire has allowed limited humanitarian access, small quantities of medical supplies and food, but those remain far from sufficient to meet the overwhelming needs. The hospital has seen an influx of patients with chronic conditions, and although some essential drugs and supplies have started to reach Gaza, over half of the critical items remain unavailable, leaving clinicians to improvise under extreme conditions. Even so, El Ahly continues to care for hundreds of people with trauma-related injuries, burns, amputations, spinal cord injuries, and complex disabilities. Many of them are civilians and children. And alongside the surgical and rehabilitative care, the hospital staff is providing psychological support to patients and families coping with grief, fear, and chronic stress. Around the clock, El Ahly continues to serve as a vital lifeline. It accommodates over 100 inpatients, treats up to 400 to 500 outpatients, and performs 25 to 30 urgent surgeries each day, including complex trauma and orthopedic procedures. It is one of the few hospitals in Gaza still offering a full range of services, including the only operational CT scanner. So El Ahly remains indispensable in meeting the immense medical and humanitarian needs of a population struggling to recover and rebuild after months of devastation. We have been able to support their work and continue to engage with the Episcopal Diocese of Jerusalem as an expression of solidarity and accompaniment, and also to offer support so that they can continue to provide those kinds of services. Another partner I mentioned is the Department of Service to Palestinian Refugees, DSPR, which is a unit of the Middle East Council of Churches. DSPR was established in 1949, so it goes back to the very beginnings of the Palestinian crisis and the Nakba, the catastrophe in 1948-49 that led to the massive displacement of 750,000 Palestinians there. DSPR also reports that humanitarian aid is still slow and restricted mainly to food, with very little access to other essential supplies such as medical supplies, fuel, and tents. DSPR has continued its witness and service in the midst of adversity, and after its original clinics were destroyed, DSPR has continued to operate in 3 newly established emergency clinics that it set up under bombardment and extreme danger, 1 in the Nusayrat camp in central Gaza and 2 in Gaza City. So our clinics have received an average of 1,200 people per day, providing medical consultations, services for children, pregnant and nursing women, pharmaceutical services, especially for patients with chronic diseases, as well as dental care and laboratory tests. So they also are providing critical medical care. They continue to deliver health awareness for women, helping them protect themselves and their families from illness in an environment that grows more severe each day. Additionally, they distribute fortified food items, hygiene kits, and blankets, especially for new mothers and their infants, in addition to distributing food parcels to families who can't afford food for them. They also provide psychosocial support programs, continuing to serve thousands of women and children, helping them build psychological resilience amid profound loss, fear, and the absence of safety or hope for a better future. When we spoke with the director of DSPR during our visit last month, he shared that they continue to provide services to 1,000 people on a daily basis: medical, dental, psychosocial, pharmaceutical care. All of these in a situation both for Al Ahly and for DSPR, where their staff are living with the constant threat that all of the people in Gaza continue to live with. So they are not immune, they're not exempt, they're not separate from the whole of Palestinian society in Gaza. They are part of it and continue to contribute even in the midst of that threat. And Dar al-Kalima, the university, the only Palestinian university accredited to teach culture and the arts, has 40 staff who continue to work in Gaza, offering art therapy and have provided art therapy for large numbers of children in the last 6 months. So that is a place where people can get psychosocial care, play activities, and other kinds of ways to deal and cope with the situation there. I think it's important also just to mention that the Christian population in Gaza before October of 2023 was about 1,200 people out of the 2.3 million Palestinians in Gaza. And now it's estimated that it is down to about 500 or even less. So this period since October of 2023 has been devastating for the Christian community. But even so, those Christian institutions continue to provide care and provide an important Christian witness to the whole of Palestinian society. They don't discriminate. They don't separate communities, and they have been around for a long time. So they are trusted, and they are indigenous. They are institutions that are well known. The staff live and are part of the communities and continue to serve to the communities in which they live. So I just want to finish up by sharing that the Christian Church Disciples of Christ, along with the United Church of Christ, through Global Ministries, has been very active, especially since October of 2023. But it's important to point out that disciples have a long history of engagement in the Middle East, going back to the mid-19th century. So the relationships that we have as a church are ones that we have nurtured over decades and a century and a half of engagement. And these are the partnerships that we are able to draw upon and walk in solidarity with our partners, so that we are not we don't helicopter in. We have these relationships that are longstanding, and ones that have endured good times and worse times, now even the worst of times. So our engagement is something that we hope they know they can count on, and we have walked in solidarity with them during this time. Public witness statements are one way that the disciples' leadership have been engaged, including naming the reality on the ground as genocide in a letter in September of 2024. And then, of course, the resolution that was adopted in the General Assembly in 2025, calling for an end to genocide and affirming the World Council of Churches report that named the reality on the ground as apartheid, which is consistent with the resolution the disciples adopted in 2023 called Compelled to Witness, following the letter by disciples leaders of that same name. We've also been engaged deeply in advocacy in Washington, D.C., and continue to offer opportunities for disciples to engage in advocacy on a monthly basis through the Ecumenical Third Thursday Alert, which is posted on the Global Ministries website every month. We also engage with Churches for Middle East Peace, of which the disciples are a member, a longstanding member. And I will be in Washington tomorrow and Tuesday for meetings with Churches for Middle East Peace and opportunities to advocate on Capitol Hill related to the Middle East. We have continued to call for the blocking of military aid to countries in the Middle East, including and especially during this time to Israel. Although we know that even just in the last week or so, the U.S. administration has approved another $6 billion of military arms transfers to Israel, bypassing the congressional process. So that $6 billion puts the U.S. support for Israel in these last 2+ years at over $40 billion. And so that's an important reality that has spanned not only this current administration, but the previous administration as well. So military aid, we've called for humanitarian aid to be freely accessible and available through distribution. So all of these are ways that we have been continued to engage from an advocacy point of view. Most importantly, as I mentioned, we have been accompanying our partners so that they know through our actions and our words that we are with them, that we walk with them, and that we are there to support them. And that includes visits that we have made over these last couple of years to be present with them, but regular conversations and regular connections, as well as support, and that includes financial support for the critical work that they are carrying out in their communities. And that also includes the amplification of their voices. And the Kairos Palestine 2 document, Hope in the Midst of Genocide, which was issued in November of 2025, is another opportunity for us to hear partners' voices and to take heed of what they're calling for and to act in ways that they are urging us to do. So we have also been engaged in education, including the publication and discussion around the book Rooted in Faith and Justice, and opportunities to share with different groups throughout the church. So our accompaniment and our engagement is consistent with our understanding of partnership and is based on our understanding of the relationships, the importance and centrality of the relationships that we have in the region and have nurtured over many, many years. So I'm going to stop there, and hopefully I haven't gone too far over the time that I was assigned, but wanted to make sure to cover those areas.
Thank you so much, Peter. So we will move gradually here into a time of questions and responses. So we invite you to put your question in the chat box. If you are absolutely unable to do that, we will allow you to raise your virtual hand. Rick is going to be moderating these questions, so there are enough of us here that if you just put up your physical hand, he may not see you. So it is much preferred that you put your questions in the chat box. I know we've got some in there already. Daniel's also dropping some links to various things as we go. So give you a little time to think about that. I'll just start us off with a couple. And Peter, you did talk about this a little bit already. Um, but I want to just give you a chance to say a little bit more. I think a lot of the folks here have been, even some with you in the West Bank, but many fewer of us have actually been in Gaza. So can you just maybe flesh out a little bit more, the distinctions, the relationships between Palestinians in Gaza and those in the West Bank, and just say a little bit more about that, if you would, briefly.
Sure, of course. As I mentioned earlier, the pre-October 2023 population of Gaza was about 2.3 million people. It's one of the most densely populated areas on the planet, and two-thirds to three-quarters of that population are refugees or their descendants from 1948. And if you look at the map, they come from areas that are scattered, but especially from areas that are in what became Israel and southern Israel especially. So the areas along Jaffa and along the coast, and then inland and inward around what is Gaza. Those populations all were in communities that now no longer exist, but they relocated and were forced into the Gaza Strip, which was occupied and controlled by Egypt until 1967, and since 1967 has been under Israeli control. I think it's important to point out that our media and descriptions of Gaza tend to isolate it from the whole of Palestinian society. So we need to look not only at that pre-1948 history and the integration of all of Palestinian society as a single whole. We need to look back to that to help inform how we understand the reality today. The geographic distinctions between Gaza and the West Bank and East Jerusalem, and the areas that are within Israeli borders, these are recent recent realities, and so the fragmentation of Palestinian society is important for us to recognize. So when we talk about Gazans, we're not actually talking about the 2.3 million. We're talking about a small portion of those 2.3 million who actually lived in what is now Gaza before 1948. When we talk about the people who live in Gaza, we should be talking about the Palestinian population of Gaza, because that includes people from Gaza, but also Palestinian refugees from surrounding areas. And so there's also a stratification of rights that Palestinians have experienced as a result of the Nakba and as a result of the occupation. So the Palestinians who remained in what became Israel and became citizens of the state of Israel are the highest on the rungs of rights. And then East Jerusalem residents who aren't citizens of Israel, they have the next highest level of rights. And then the West Bankers, and then those who live in Gaza, and then refugees who live within the area of Israel-Palestine, but also then those who live beyond in Jordan and Lebanon and other places. So there's a stratification of rights that happened as a result of the geographic separation of the once whole Palestinian community. So it's important for us just to keep that in mind, that the people of Gaza are not separate from the whole of Palestinian society. And families are connected, even though they can't access each other, between Gaza and the West Bank, or Gaza and Israel, or Gaza and even beyond. So Palestinians in refugee camps in Jordan also include people who left Gaza. And during these 2.5 years, I've had an opportunity to visit with Palestinians who actually were outside of Gaza at the time of October 7th, 2023, and got stuck outside of Gaza, and they're still stuck outside. So all of this is a function of boundaries and borders, and the restrictions that are in place on Palestinian movement. But we need to think of the whole of Gaza, of the whole of the Palestinian society as one that is coherent historically and socially and culturally, and that just maybe puts a different frame on how we understand what we watch on the news that tends to fragment and oversimplify.
Thank you. Okay, Rick, have you got some questions lined up for us? You are muted.
I have dogs in the room. I make sure that they don't interfere. Yeah, we have quite a few and some pretty interesting ones. So, Peter, first question was, are any towns in Gaza still hospitable and functioning?
That's a hard question to answer. I mean, we've watched through news coverage and through the reports that have come out of Gaza, the massive numbers of Palestinians who are displaced forcibly from their homes and communities, as well as the total destruction of landscape, apartment buildings, whole communities and neighborhoods. So very, very little of what was Gaza before October 2023 is still functioning today. I noted that only a few of the hospitals are still working. So there are areas that are still standing and still functioning, but not in the same way. And you walk around and you see the landscape around those institutions. They've been destroyed. I mentioned Al Ahly Hospital has been hit 8 times during this 2+ years. Dar el Kelama University itself was hit directly during Holy Week in 2024. So nothing has been exempt from the onslaught of Israeli attacks. Terms of ecocide and scholasticide and ecclesiacide, all of these have been coined during this time to describe the scope of destruction that Palestinian society has experienced as a result of this onslaught. So it's hard to say that any place is functioning as it was before 2023. And the other reality is that with the slight opening of the Rafah crossing and access to some humanitarian aid, and that is very low, I must say. I mean, we were looking at 600 or so trucks entering Gaza before October of 2023, bringing in food and medical supplies and so forth. Currently, it's closer to 100 at best these days, even after the ceasefire agreement. But no reconstruction supplies are being allowed in either. So all of those previous wars that I mentioned and attacks on Gaza, those haven't been the damage of those have not been reconstructed either. So this is destruction on top of destruction, and it's not just a 2.5-year assault, but also one that has been carried out over decades.
I'm going to skip the next question for a moment and just ask one related to your answer here. Is there any talk of when the Rafah crossing will be more open? Let's see, this is a long comment here. Let's see if, well, I would just throw out there that this person is interested in getting people in there for EMDR training.
It's supposed to be more open than it is. So implementation of the steps described in the ceasefire, there's been no accountability and no enforcement of those. And that also has led to, as I mentioned, just tens of people being allowed to leave who are in urgent need of medical care, and even fewer being allowed in to Gaza, those Palestinians who had left at some point and were trying to get back into Gaza. And what we're hearing is that those who are entering Gaza, who are allowed to enter Gaza, are only allowed to carry, one bag, and so they can't bring large amounts of food or medical supplies for themselves, for their families, for their community, and so there are heavy restrictions on what individuals are allowed to bring in, as well as what the trucks can transport and how many numbers of trucks can get in. In addition, Israel has named 37 humanitarian organizations. Said that they need to re-register before they can operate, and they have also shut down, and it has been defunded, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency there, although they continue to function somehow as well. So all of this has contributed to a reality that, even if the Rafah crossing were to open with full access both ways, as it's supposed to, it would take a lot of time to bring in what is needed, and to rehabilitate those who are suffering from food insecurity, and to bring in what is necessary for reconstruction. So there is a lot of question around what a timeline might be, and what limits there will be put on access both ways at the Rafah crossing. It had been physically destroyed by Israel during this war.
Thank you. I just want to clarify for anybody that may have been wondering, EMDR is a technique for dealing with psychological trauma and PTSD. So that is what the questioner wanted, I think, to make sure that everybody here knew they are trying to accomplish. And they're doing some online trainings already, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I should say that medical volunteers are also highly regulated in terms of who can go and who has been allowed to go. And we've been able to hear reports and interviews with doctors who have volunteered and been engaged in Gaza during these months. But we also know that the restrictions on entry have affected those opportunities for volunteer medical care.
Thank you again. Let's see. Next question is a bunch of links. How do you find our partners' spirits or souls or emotional state?
That's a really good question. For so long, we have accompanied partners and witnessed their continuing hope, perseverance, commitment to remaining, commitment to serving, and their hope for a future that is more just than what they have experienced. Over these many years also, we have watched as the situation continues to worsen. And so every time I have visited, it seems as if it's possible that it can't get any worse. But every time I visit, it seems to be worse than the previous time. So the reality also in these last 2.5 or 2+ years has been especially difficult for Palestinian Christian partners. And on this visit especially, it was, you could tell that people are worn down, and their capacity to think about a future that is more just and more favorable has been diminished. So, I wish I could say something more positive, but I must say that on this visit last month, despite a joyous celebration for the consecration of a new bishop, the Palestinian community, the Palestinian community, Christian community with which we engaged, are showing their weariness because of the the dual standards that the world uses when approaching Israel-Palestine, and the inconsistent application of international law, and all of that has contributed to losing faith. And one of our Christian partners says the Palestinians have not lost faith in God, but they have lost faith in humanity. So that is a devastating judgment, and one that we need to heed in terms of our own continued engagement. One of our Palestinian partners this time said to us, the question is not why should we stay, but the question is why shouldn't we leave? So people are to that point where, especially young people who want to have a future that they are able to see, and a life that they're able to see through internet and through social media outside, uh, they wonder, why can't they have that too? And the commitment to remaining is there, but at the same time, there is also the hope and dream that everybody has for a better life. So it's a difficult time for our Palestinian partners.
Our next questioner asks, what are you hearing from justice or peace groups in Israel? Do they see a possibility of change in Israeli society?
Well, I mean, I think we have watched the demonstrations against the current government, but we've also recognized that those demonstrations are against changes that affect different segments of the Israeli Jewish population, and very little in terms of what is articulated is about the rights of Palestinians, and even when we've seen reports of people advocating for Palestinian rights in those demonstrations. They're shut down. So one of our partners is B'Tselem, the Israeli Center for Human Rights in the Occupied Territories, and they continue to offer an authentic and important witness. Critical of Israeli policies and practices against Palestinians. They've named apartheid, they've named genocide. They've just issued another report about the reality of Palestinians in Israeli jails and detention. And those are posted on our website, so I encourage you to read them. So they are a light and a hope in Israeli society. We also know that the Israeli population has shifted more to the right. That's reflected in the government. It's also reflected in patterns of emigration from Israel. So people who Israeli Jews who are able on the left and who are losing hope in Israel itself have been leaving at rates that are higher. So that also is more devastating for the future in terms of rights and civil liberties and all of those kinds of things, not only for the Jewish population, but for the population of Palestinians who are under Israeli control.
The next question is related. Without outside influence, do you believe that Israel would eventually declare their objectives met and stop the attacks?
Well, I'm not sure they've articulated what their objectives are. So they have named, eradication of Hamas, and they have named, de-weaponization of Palestinians and that kind of thing. Those are articulated, but at the same time, their control of land and territory and manipulation of populations continues, not only in Gaza and the West Bank, but also occupations within southern Lebanon and expanding occupation beyond Golan in Syria. So, these also are realities that our partners in other parts of the region are experiencing as well. So in Lebanon, for example, we have continued to support work responding to the needs of the tens of thousands of displaced Lebanese from southern Lebanon. Israel continues to occupy and hit communities in southern Lebanon. And then in Syria as well, they have gone into southern Syria and expanded their control in areas south of Damascus. So, all of this contributes to sort of an undeclared goals and objectives that just lead to continued expansion, not only within Palestinian areas, but also in other parts of the region. So that's a complicating factor, and one that is impacting the lives of people in Lebanon as well as in Syria. Syria, of course, has been through 14 years of war. And it has been trying to get itself back on its feet, but also is dealing with the reality of Israeli occupation. What does that mean for the future of Syria? And what does it mean for conditions to be set on what can happen in Lebanon, conditions set by Israel and by the U.S., when Lebanon also is sovereign territory and that sovereignty needs to be respected. So there's a lot of concern about Israeli objectives, what they really are, and how they might be implemented or carried out to achieve them. So I don't have a good answer for the question, but we only can continue to accompany our partners and advocate for what they are witnessing and living and calling us to do.
How much of a presence does Hamas still have in Gaza? How are they and the residents of Gaza relating to each other?
Yeah, there are all kinds of reports about what this 2+ years has meant for Hamas's presence in Gaza, how much support they continue to have, and how much influence they might have going forward. Of course, this is one of the stated objectives of Israel, and that is the de-Hamasification, if you want to put it that way, of Gaza. And so part of the ceasefire agreement includes a technical committee of Palestinians that would govern and also be involved in reconstruction of Gaza. It's really difficult to know exactly how much influence a movement like Hamas would continue to have. Hamas was established in 1987 and has contributed, has been engaged in providing social services as well as, existing as a political party, in addition to what people highlight in terms of its military branch. So it is something that is there and has been involved in resistance to occupation and to ongoing Israeli oppression of Palestinians there. And whether Hamas exists or not, as long as the Palestinians continue to experience the violation of rights and the ongoing occupation and limited movement and other grievances, there's going to be resistance. And whether that's in the form of a religiously oriented organization, a movement, or a more secular one, or whatever else, as long as the reality doesn't improve, there's going to be resistance, and I think that's something that is important to recognize. The reality is that throughout these 2+ years, we have advocated for an immediate ceasefire and addressing ending the ongoing assault that Israel has carried out in Gaza, but we've also called for addressing the root causes that need to be addressed so that we don't revert to a pre-October 2023 reality. And so even if this ceasefire does address an end to Israeli assault on Gaza, which it hasn't, we still have not addressed in any way the ongoing root causes and root issues that need to be resolved for there to be justice. And that's exemplified even by the 55 to 58% occupation, military occupation, physical occupation of Gaza, which has reduced the amount of space in Gaza that the whole Palestinian community there is now able to live in. A highly densely populated space is now reduced by more than half. So just an intensification of the conditions that existed before, with no opportunity for reconstruction that has input from Palestinians. So as long as these conditions prevail and continue to worsen, there will be resistance. And Palestinian Christians have called in the Kairos Palestine document in 2009, and then again in the most recent document, Faith in a Time of Genocide, issued in November of 2025, have called for the world to recognize a Palestinian right to resist. Palestinian Christians have advocated for nonviolent resistance, but also have called for creative resistance. So the idea of resistance will continue to prevail as long as justice doesn't prevail.
Amen. Wow. We have so many questions left in the chat box. Thank you all for such a rich conversation. We are going to have to move on. I think we will note those questions and see if we can get Peter to maybe write out some little short answers later. We are going to send this session out to y'all by email, so we'll see what we can do just to make sure none of this important compassion-based curiosity is lost. So I'm going to turn it over to Jeff now, who's going to share with us some ways that you can most effectively get involved. But thank you so much, Peter. Everybody silently help me thank Peter here for this very rich. I'm sure you could go on and on and on, and some of us would like to do that, but I'm guessing at least one person here wants to watch a football game or something. Maybe aren't there like dogs? They do a dog thing too, maybe? Anyway, Jeff, without further ado.
Yeah, thanks again, Peter. Fantastic information. Ways to become involved. First, the financial. We do plan to end our webinar as we promised it for at the 15 hours. 15 minutes past the hour, I should put, not the 15th hour. First, the financial. If you want to help meet the needs of the Palestinians, and I know many of you are already aware of this, Peter's mentioned it, spiritually, emotionally, physically, Global Ministries offers a way for us to be able to give directly, avoiding the costs of administration and bank fees, etc. Gratefully, in partnership with the UCCs, we've been responding for well over a century to the needs of folks throughout the Middle East, as our partners there have made requests. And you can find a list of our Global Ministries projects and our partners in the link that Daniel has just added to the chat. Beyond giving financially, I can speak for all of us at DPSM to say that we're still learning. One of our deepest frustrations is the way that our major media are covering the continuing assault on Gaza, and Israel's turning now to deepen that assault in the West Bank. I don't like to hear folks say that the situation is complex. We hear that often. It's not complex. It's ethnic cleansing and it's genocide. Still, the history, the politics in the U.S., the international machinations, these are complexities that all of us are still learning about. So we offer a couple of websites where you can get a fuller picture of what's happening and what is not happening. Dropsite News is one. It's a Washington, D.C. based nonprofit investigative news outlet. It focuses on independent reporting on U.S. politics, war, and foreign policy. And it positions itself as a non-aligned anti-establishment platform. It covers a wide variety of news and would be one we would suggest. Mondeweiss is another one. Mondeweiss is a U.S.-based nonprofit news website that's focused on covering American foreign policy in the Middle East, specifically from an anti-Zionist, progressive Jewish perspective. It aims to promote Palestinian rights and provide alternatives to Zionism, and it does criticize Israeli policies as well as U.S. policies. And then there's Al Jazeera TV. Al Jazeera is based in Qatar, but it has bureaus all over the world, and it brings news and footage that we simply won't see and hear from our U.S. media. I don't know if you all heard, but that our vice president was booed at the opening of the Olympics. And there's not a single media in the U.S. that has covered that, but the media around the rest of the world has certainly covered that incident. There's a lot of books that we'd recommend. I don't know, Rebecca, if we said we're going to issue a bibliography later as a part of our follow-up, but we want to call attention at least to one book at this point. And I think that Daniel's already put that link, and I'll ask him to do that again. It's Rooted in Faith and Justice, Christian Calls to Conscience and Cries for Peace in Palestine. It's edited by Global Ministries staff. The book offers perspectives on the crisis through the eyes of our Palestinian Christian leaders and thinkers. Finally, we hope that you'll take action in your own context. There are so many ways to begin and to carry on, but especially to begin if you haven't. One of the most important ways is just to join DPSM in prayer each week as we share together in the Friends of Sabil's Wave of Prayer. It's a 5-minute appeal that we join others around the world in making each week. Take up the calls that Global Ministry issues each Thursday. And Peter, I don't know if you have a link handy to the third Thursday alert and how people can sign up for that. That would be helpful. You can go to the street. Find allies who are organizing demonstrations in your own area. In our context here in Northern Colorado, we have Jewish Voice for Peace in Northern Colorado, the Democratic Socialists of America, Veterans for Peace, and others that gather at a major intersection in Fort Collins, demonstrating for the just peace there in Palestine twice a week. Please don't think that your letters and calls to your elected representatives don't make much difference. We hear again and again that they do make a difference. If there's not a regular demonstration going on in your community, you want to email me. I'll give you some tips about how to start one and how to remain safe. I know that Rebecca's been involved too in California and can give you some tips, and especially how to remain safe during those. And a primary appeal that our siblings in Palestine make is to come and see. So I would really encourage you to find an alternative tour to Israel and Palestine, where you'll spend time not only looking at the holy sites, but spending time with Muslims and Christians and Jews who are working for this just peace in that place. I don't know, Peter, if you have another plan. Janet and I thought we had led our last alternative tour to Palestine, but we're having people that are asking us to do another, and it's something that we're considering. I hope you'll hear this. No matter in what justice issue you've invested your time, your energy, and your resources, we want to encourage you to take care of yourselves. Darkness has descended upon our world, and I don't think that this is an overstatement. So be encouraged, please, to find those places and resources to which you can turn in a disciplined way. For me, it's worship and exercise and surrounding myself with folks who share our values. For you, it may be yoga or meditation, being in nature, writing, or art. We're in this for the long haul. We're in it together for the long haul. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. Helping to make smooth this path that we make in partnership with God for this commonwealth that God is creating in our world. So please take care of yourselves. Rebecca?
Thanks, Jeff. So yeah, you have an overwhelming number of links there in the chat box for you. We're going to give you just a few more. As I said, DPSM is still trying to figure out who we are and how we work. But one of the things that we haven't necessarily said out loud, but I just realized is true, that we have been centering ourselves around amplifying the voices of our Palestinian Christian siblings. And one of the ways, as you heard, that we've been doing that is with our weekly Wave of Prayer videos, with the weekly Wave of Prayer from Sabeel. We also have been trying to do what we can to amplify the Kairos Palestine 2 document that was released in November. If you go back to our Facebook page, you can scroll back. You'll find the link 1,000 times because as in the weeks following its release, we were posting quotes. Just so if you can't read the whole thing because it's really long, you can go read the quotes on our Facebook page. But the other thing we wanted to make sure you know about, because Lent is almost here, is that a study guide for the Kairos Palestine 2 document has just been released that came out from Friends of Sabeel North America and the Presbyterians and the Methodists. They work together to create this wonderful study guide. And it is, I believe it's a 5-week, 5-session thing. You can adapt it and use it as you know, you've no doubt done with thousands of resources before. One of the things that we do want to offer you at the end of that thing, there are special pages for Presbyterians and special pages for Methodists because they made it that are kind of giving a denominational background. And so we did want to offer you kind of the disciples and to some degree UCC version of that, so that if you lead this with a group and people want to say, well, what have the disciples done on this? You have that resource. It's not quite as annotated as the ones in the study guide for our other tradition friends, but just a list of the resolutions and the pastoral letters and various actions. So you can find those on our Facebook page as well. And Daniel's also put the links in there. I don't know if I want to promise to put all of these links in our follow-up email, but I will try. So, the other thing then that we wanted to say, this is our third online gathering since our relaunch at the beginning of September. We are planning to have another one sometime around May. And we have had some ideas about what to do with that, but we also, this is your disciples grassroots Palestine solidarity movement. And so we'd like to hear from you if you have ideas about how you would like to be together with these people around this issue. If you want to drop those in the chat box, you can also respond to the follow-up email that will come out probably tomorrow, I'm gonna say, and just let us know what would compel you by May. Now remember, on May after Sunday afternoon, what would make you sit inside on your computer instead of taking your Sunday nap or going for a lovely walk? That would be of interest to you so that you can stay connected and rooted in this struggle together with fellow Christians. So that I believe is all we wanted to say. So we're going to ask Peter to give us our closing prayer. And I just want to thank all of you again for being with us. And thank you again, Peter, as you close us out with prayer. It has been extraordinarily rich and intense as it is when we open our hearts to the entirety of the situation, we'll say, in Palestine. Peter.
Thank you. Thank you all. It's good to see so many of you, and I'm grateful for this opportunity. I'll close in prayer, and the closing words of the prayer will refer to the Kairos Palestine 2009 document. So I'll be quoting from that as I conclude. Let us join in a spirit of prayer. Gracious and loving God, God of justice and God of hope, we are grateful for the opportunity to be together, to be encouraged by each other's presence, and to continue to open our hearts and minds and ears to the reality of our partners around the world, and particularly those in Palestine and the Palestinian Christian community. We are grateful to be in relationship with them, and we continue to offer prayers for their strength and continued courage in this time of genocide and this time of deep challenge. We ask that you be with them and empower them to continue to carry out their witness and to carry out their commitment to their community. And we ask you also to be with us as we continue to engage in the struggle for justice in Palestine and in the world. We are grateful for this opportunity to be together, and we ask that you accompany us in the struggle that we all are engaged in. We are grateful for the hope, but also know the difficulties that we face in this life. But as Palestinian Christians tell us, in the absence of all hope, we cry out our cry of hope. We believe in you, God, good and just. We believe that your goodness will finally triumph over the evil of hate and of death that still persist in this land and in Palestine. We will see here a new land and a new human being capable of rising up in the spirit of love, each one of his or her brothers and sisters. We ask all this in the name of the resurrected Christ, the one who gives us hope and sustains us. Amen.
Amen.